All right, guys, Good Boy 32 here. Check it out. Well, I've got a new scope coming in for that 6.5 Creedmoor, and I needed a new mount. But I tell you what, as luck would have it, Sightmark sent me this new scope right here. This is the Rapid AR. It's a really nice little package, and I've got to do a review on this thing. This is a 3-12 by 32. Look how really nice that is. And the nice thing is, it does remind me somewhat of the Leupold Mark IV with its contour lines and profile of the tube on here. And we're going to go ahead, I'm going to put it on this guy right here, the Mark 12. I don't know if you can see that, but in any case, one of the things we're going to do is just mount it up here like this. Now, because I have the 6.5 Creedmoor, I need a new scope mount. And one of the biggest things is I'm a big fan of American Defense. So there's not a whole lot of reviews out there. As a matter of fact, one of the only other reviews I've ever seen, there's like 4 or 5 of them, and one of them is mine on this guy right here, back when I used to use the music, the crazy stuff. But in any case, I've always been a big fan of American Defense. One, because it's just good quality stuff. You can always count on these scope mounts to, one, keep you zeroed where you need to be. I'm not so much concerned about taking it on and off and putting it back and seeing if it comes back to zero, because these rarely do come off the rifle. What I'm more concerned about is something that is going to seriously keep it on target when it's dropped in a bucket or slammed around. And this one has not failed. Now, this is the offset. This one here, this is the AD-RECON-S. That means standard 30mm tube. Okay, so these things come in a couple different ways and configurations. One is a 10 MOA, 20 MOA, and 30 MOA. And what that practically means, is I'll go ahead and pull this guy right here and I'll show you, is that there's a cant or an angle built into the scope itself. So if you have like 55 minutes of angle of movement in a range in the vertical turret up and down, then this will allow you and give you an extra 30 MOA in angle. So I don't need that for a 3-gun rifle, and I'm not necessarily needing that for the 6.5 Creedmoor, because I really don't see myself shooting out past 1,000 yards. So I felt like this guy was a good ticket. Now, the cool thing about this is where this is an offset, this one is just a straight up and down. Now, let's just go ahead and tell you about what's in the bag. We got lens cleaner, you got thread tight instructions. It's nice of them to do that. A really cool sticker that's going to go somewhere, and an Allen wrench. Now, I'm going to tell you about the pros and cons about this thing, because there are some cons. Not everything's to be pros. There's a lot of different manufacturers out there. You got Bob Rowe, LaRue Tactical. A lot of people do make scope mounts that are very similar to this. This particular one is, like I said, a straight up. It's standard. It's not canted. It does not incorporate any kind of minute of angle. I love this thing, and I'm going to tell you the reasons why. But before we do that, let's go ahead. I'll show you how this works and it fits into the scope. So basically, you got 4 tightening screws right here. Now, the unique thing about the American Defense, and I think there's a couple other ones out there, is that these rings are free-floating. And what I mean by that is that they are not fixed to the mount right here. And what that does is it enables you to put a scope in there and not have to worry about lapping the rings. Now, I've never seen a lot of these scope mounts are not necessarily requiring them to be lapped, but it is nice to know that they're free floating and you just tighten them up as you go. The only issue that I've had with the free float stuff is when you're trying to level up a scope, because the rings are so loose that the scope is either the rings are too tight to move the scope, or the rings have not settled until they're completely tight. And it makes it kind of a pain in the rear end to level the scope out. But if you guys know of any secrets that I'm missing, please let me know. But in any case, I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a couple seconds with the free floating. And that's where these things work in. So you got a ring here, left side, right side. And what happens is these things mount up and meet just like that. And there's a balancing pin in there. Now, as you see these 3 holes right here, this guy right here will go straight into there, just like that. And it's loose, as you can see right there. This one right here, it will fit on just like this. And until you tighten that thing up, these bad boys will sit there and they'll move. And then together, when you tighten them, they'll come together. You don't have to worry about misalignment or bending a tube or something crazy like that. So that is the cool thing. Like I said earlier, one is it's just a pain in the rear end to plumb up that scope. So we got a lock-in levers right here. Very nice very positive. Never really had any issues with this thing. As a matter of fact, on this particular rifle, I have these so tight that I use a rubber-handled screwdriver, and I push that in there so that I can pull them off. Let's talk about this. This is the Mark 12 right here, and it has this continuous rail on the top of it, as you can see, all the way across like that. And one of the benefits of having that rail that reaches all the way across is you can position this scope mount pretty much anywhere on the rifle. All right, so I wanted to reposition the rifle so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about with the levers. Now, the cool thing about the levers is that you can tighten these contact points in here. You merely open it up and you depress it just like that, and you can turn and you can tighten it. You can either use a screwdriver or you can use your hand. I prefer to just use my hand, because what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I am going to, one, put it on the rail, see how it fits. See that movement? There is none. Go ahead and push this first one back, second back, and there you go. Now, it's still loose. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull it off, depress, and I'm going to tighten her down about a half turn. Not much, don't need a whole lot. And let's see how that worked out. Still loose. All right, so I want to keep going with this guy in the back. Now, we're going to mount it on here. So what I want to do now is I want to position this scope, and I like centered up. I don't like my scopes offset in this thing unless it's absolutely necessary. But the nice thing is with this swan rail in here, there's enough clearance for this rear iron sight. There we go. And we'll put the screws into it and snug it up a little bit so we can maneuver it and manipulate it so it works right. All right, so here we are, man. We got this thing mounted up. We're going to go ahead and make it sure it's centered. I'm not so much concerned about leveling it up because we have to actually do the box opening and review on this thing, but we'll just make sure that it is pretty well plumbed up with the mounts. Now, that's the problem. Once you start twisting this thing, it may move. I'm not so much as even going to torque these down right now. Just tighten them up. All right, so there you go. She's ready to go. Not so much centered, but we'll be all right. All right, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and set the scope onto the rail. And I usually like to have my eye relief or the end of my scopes about flush with that rear delta ring or the charging handle right here. This particular scope's got 4.2 inches of eye relief. Let's go ahead and close that up. And there you go. And see, that thing is moving because they're not tightened up yet. So we'll go ahead, spin the rifle around, and we'll snug these bad boys up. All right, one of the things that we just experienced there was I thought the screws right here were tightened up enough, and they were not. I mean, unless they are really cranked down, and you want to see what I'm talking about, there's some sweat, we'll go ahead and just unloosen these, we'll loosen these up just a tad, just to get a feel, and I'll show you exactly what I was referring to. If they're even remotely loose, then the rings themselves are not tied to the lower mount portion. And I was sitting there going, what in the world? And they just needed to be really, really tight, I guess. But as you can see right there, and that's just from a little bit of loosening them up. I got worried there because I don't want to over tighten them. I'm going to go ahead and snug those up, and that movement will go away. That's a really nice looking system though. I do love that American Defense. Not only do they just perform, but they look good. Amazing. So anyway guys, that's it. This is the standard, and as you can see, they just go straight up. There is no offset, and right here, these are the offsets, and these are both the Recons. That's it. Guys, if you got any questions concerning the American Defense scope mounts, you can get these things on Amazon. I think I paid like $144. 2-day shipping with this thing with a Prime membership. It was really cool. They do have the MOA adjusted scope rings. They're run about $170. All right, so that's it pretty much in a nutshell. If you got any questions, please don't hesitate in leaving them in the comment section down below. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Support the red, white, and blue. God bless America. God bless those men, women in uniform, 24/7 for our freedom. This freedom's not free. Good old 132 out.